living in a polarized world. Our society is full of contrasts, and inequality is a big challenge. Many problems can only be solved by working together.
Yes, I think capitalism is slavery.
What is home?
How do we tackle the major issues of our time? Let's talk about it.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.
This is DW News live from Berlin. Venezuela's opposition leader flees to Spain and vows to fight for democracy in exile. Edmundo Gonzalez is being granted asylum with a warrant out for his arrest at home. Supporters say he left because his life was in danger. Also coming up, Israel closes its land border with Jordan over a shooting at a West Bank crossing. The army says an attacker opened fire, killing 3 Israeli guards. And Paris bids farewell to the Paralympics. As the Games close, it's hoped the event is changing attitudes towards disability. I'm Ul Al-Zakar. Welcome to the program. Venezuelan opposition leader Edmundo Gonzalez has vowed to continue his fight for democracy in exile after he fled Venezuela to seek asylum in Spain. Supporters maintain he, and not President Nicolas Maduro, won the disputed presidential election 6 weeks ago. The opposition says Gonzalez left the country because he feared for his life.
Venezuelan opposition leaders say this is the rightful president of their country. But he's arrived in Spain, where he's been granted political asylum.
My departure from Caracas was marked by episodes of pressure, coercion and threats, suggesting I wouldn't be allowed to leave. I trust that we will soon continue the fight for liberty and the return of democracy in Venezuela.
Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia faces arrest back home. After 11 years in power, Nicolas Maduro was declared president again after July's elections, but opposition leaders say the results were rigged.
What happened during today's polling was a violation of the rules. Our struggle continues, and we won't rest until the will of the people of Venezuela is respected.
Opposition supporters have been persecuted for that claim. Since the election, the government has detained thousands of protesters and driven opposition leaders into hiding. That includes Maria Corina Machado, who stepped aside to make way for Gonzalez after she was banned from running for president. She has since emerged a few times to lead protests against Maduro and to demand a transparent vote count. Machado spoke out about Gonzalez's departure on X, writing, "Gonzalez's life was in danger, and the regime has no scruples or limits in its obsession to silence him and try to bend him. Faced with this brutal reality, it is necessary for our cause to preserve his freedom, his integrity, and his life." But Gonzalez's departure has worried Venezuelans.
I feel hopeless. What little hope we had went with him.
I'm very distressed, but at the same time, I think he is safe where he is. We need to keep on fighting and have faith.
Machado, however, says Gonzalez will be sworn in exile in January and will fight from abroad, while Machado will remain to lead the cause in Venezuela.
DW's Oscar Schlenker is following the story for us from the Venezuelan capital, Caracas. I asked him what to make of the fact that the Venezuelan government allowed Gonzalez free passage despite an arrest warrant against him.
Well, it definitely puts into question Venezuela's judicial system and the validity of the charges against Edmundo González Urrutia. It also shows how politics dominate every decision made, in particular Maduro's administration, which has the support of all the institutions and the military here in Venezuela. Now, Edmundo González Urrutia stated today after arriving in Spain that trying to leave Venezuela was an ordeal met with coercion, pressures, and threats from the government. We also learned today that González Urrutia had been staying at the Dutch embassy here in Caracas since shortly after the elections about a month ago, until he decided, due to mounting persecution and the arrest warrant, to take Spain's offer of political asylum. So it's not clear what negotiations were made to allow González Urrutia's departure, but Maduro's administration is treating his exile as a political success.
Where does this exile leave the opposition in Venezuela now?
Well, the opposition is firm on their conviction that Edmundo González Urrutia won the elections, and those claims are supported by several factors, starting with the voting machine tallies that were uploaded to the internet, also the fact that Maduro's administration has not been able to provide any proof of electoral documents that can be verified to demonstrate his proclaimed victory, adding to statements by key international observers, including the United Nations, that questioned the electoral transparency of these elections. So the opposition will continue to fight for recognition of Edmundo González Urrutia's win. Maria Corina Machado said they will proclaim him president on January 10th, as the law demands, and they still have a strong international support, which could translate into more repression and persecution inside Venezuela as January approaches.
You said there's strong international support, but I wonder, how have Venezuelans reacted to González's departure?
There are fears this new development will divide the opposition. Some people in Venezuela have expressed they feel abandoned and hopeless to change. It's also one of the challenges Maria Corina Machado now faces. With Maduro's strong grasp on power and the support of the military, the only thing holding the opposition together is an almost certain belief they won the elections and international support from democratic countries. However, in the past weeks, we have seen an increase in migrants leaving Venezuela as they see little hope for change and the worsening crisis that is looming.
Thanks very much for your reporting, Oscar. That's DW's Oscar Schlenker in Caracas. Time for a quick look now at some other stories making headlines around the world. North Koreans have marked the 76th anniversary of the state's foundation. Celebrations were held in the center of Pyongyang at Kim Il-sung Square. Russia and China have sent their greetings, both expressing hope for deeper ties with North Korea. Supporters of Algeria's incumbent president Abdelmadjid Tebboune have celebrated his victory in the presidential election. The electoral authorities said Tebboune got almost 95% of the vote, giving him a second five-year term. The election was marred by low voter turnout and claims of irregularities from his detractors. At least 48 people have died after a fuel tanker crash caused a massive explosion in Nigeria. A spokesperson from the Emergency Management Agency said all those killed had been given a mass burial close to the site of the collision. Around 50 cattle also died in the incident. Hundreds of firefighters are battling a wildfire in the foothills of a forest near Los Angeles. At least 3 people have been injured. Authorities say tens of thousands of homes and other buildings are under threat. They've ordered evacuations. County officials have declared an emergency. Israel has closed its land border with Jordan following a shooting in which 3 border guards and the gunman were killed. The incident happened at the Allenby Bridge, a key crossing. Jordan has confirmed the attacker was one of its citizens.
This border crossing between the occupied West Bank and Jordan came under attack when a gunman opened fire. A witness waiting at the checkpoint described what he saw.
We were waiting at the checkpoint for our turn after the bus in front of us was searched. A man got out of a truck in front of us and carried out the attack. Thank God nothing happened to us, but the truck drivers were ordered onto the ground. We didn't know what to do and were panicking.
The Israeli army says the attacker approached from the Jordanian side and fired at security guards. 3 Israeli civilian guards were killed while security forces shot dead the assailant. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu condemned the attack.
It's a hard day. A despicable terrorist murdered 3 of our citizens in cold blood at the Allenby Bridge. I send my condolences to the families of the murdered.
The Allenby or King Hussein Bridge crossing is the only official crossing point between the West Bank and Jordan. It's mainly used by Palestinians, foreign tourists, and for cargo shipments, and rarely experiences serious security incidents. The bridge is now closed, along with other crossings that connect Jordan and Israel.
The Paris Paralympic flame has been extinguished at a ceremony in the Stade de France, marking the end of a summer of sport in the French capital. The closing ceremony featured a spectacular light show set to French electronic music and a symbolic handoff from Paris to Los Angeles, which will host the Games in 2028. According to organisers, 2.5 million tickets were sold across 11 days of competition. And here are some reactions after the closing ceremony in Paris.
It was amazing, really cool. We weren't expecting any electro at all, and we saw all the DJs you see in the clubs, which was really great.
I'm pretty excited. I actually got a bit emotional seeing the French flag and the United States flags side by side, because both of them at this point represent home for me.
The show was incredible. It was really wonderful. I went to the Olympics too, and frankly, I was overjoyed.
Amazing. I'm so happy. I feel blessed for having the opportunity to come with my friend also. No, I can't wait for the next Olympics and Paralympics.
Paris has used the Paralympics to make its streets more accessible for people with disabilities, although, as our next report shows, problems do remain.
The Games were a showcase of impressive performances by armless archers, limbless swimmers and footballers kicking the ball into a goal they were unable to see, against stunning backdrops. And it was a formidable feast for visitors. 2/3 of the French watched at least parts of the Paralympics.
There are so many happy people, volunteers, spectators, people from all sorts of countries.
It was impressive to see people with disabilities overcome them to achieve the extraordinary.
The Games were also an occasion for some to put themselves in the shoes of people with disabilities. For example, while playing sitting volleyball.
This makes me realise how difficult this sport is and how much you have to adapt to it.
I love it, and I will try it again when I come back to my home.
Ahead of the Paralympics, the city made changes to help people with disabilities get around and created 17 barrier-free neighbourhoods, like here in northern Paris.
There are knobs on the ground for the visually impaired, and the pedestrian crossing is flat without cobblestones. We've expanded this alley so that there's more space and made the 2 sports facilities here accessible by constructing this lift which helps people get around the stairs, and by building a wheelchair ramp. By 2026, we'll have invested €125 million in these construction works.
But this sports philosopher says more needs to be done to change the mindset.
People with disabilities are not visible in our society. They don't hold office, you can hardly see them on TV, and only a few of them are in the performing arts. It's impossible for them to project themselves and dream big.
And additional construction works will be necessary. The Paris metro is largely inaccessible for people in wheelchairs. Changing that could cost more than €50 billion and take as long as 20 years.
And we'll leave you with some barking mad news. Dozens of dogs have taken part in San Diego's annual surfing competition. A local animal centre held the 19th competition on Sunday afternoon on a dog beach in the city. The Canine Surfathon is the longest running event of its kind in the United States and is a fundraising event for man's best friend. How adorable. That's all for now. Up next, Sports Life meets a young basketball player in Ghana who is an inspiration to her classmates. Stay tuned.
DW News on Instagram. For those in the know. Follow us.
Imagine that you're eating a hamburger. And as you're biting into this juicy burger, your dining companion says to you, actually, that hamburger is not made from cows. It's made from golden retrievers.
Who should we eat?
In meat-eating cultures around the world, people learn to classify a small handful of animals as edible, and all the rest they classify as disgusting.
A docuseries about our complex relationship with animals. The Great Meat Date. Watch now on YouTube. DW Documentary.
Basketball is more than just a game. It's my passion, my purpose, and a tool for change. Growing up in Agege, sometimes it's tough for me and also tough for other young kids, especially girls, because the society don't really think girls can involve themselves in sports.
Rita is hoping to break the mold by finding success in the classroom and on the basketball court. She wants to help inspire her whole community, but none of that will come easily. The roosters crow as the natural alarm clock in Agege, a coastal community in Accra, Ghana. Early mornings are bustling with activity for the fishermen, students, and market. "19-year-old Rita Lamptey lives in Agege with her father and brother. Her remaining 4 siblings reside in a nearby community with their mother.
There's no water. Getting water is like some meters away from my house.
Access to clean water is a significant obstacle for many communities in Ghana, including Rita's.
Sometimes I do get to school late. Sometimes I also get to school early.
After her chores, Rita heads to school. She dreams of one day being an English professor, but for now she's one of the first of her siblings on track to finish high school. In Ghana, many women are married off before turning 18. More than 40% of those married at an early age lack formal education. Despite different circumstances, Rita knows she could easily be like one of those girls.
I'm out here with my friends, and then come to think of it, those are my community that don't have the chance to come to school. And then due to that, they get pregnant at early age. Whenever I think about it, I'm like, God, some of us need to bring the opportunities out for these girls. And then me having this opportunity, I think when I go further, I also give these opportunities to other girls in my community.
After a long day at school, Rita returns home and quickly prepares for her basketball training. She's determined to continue improving her game. Basketball has helped motivate her in the classroom, and she sees the sport as a way to bring positive change to her community. Joining the Dunk basketball team helped change her life.
When I went to school, I saw these guys playing, and I was like, okay, then basketball is a nice game. There's good communication, there's teamwork. So I need to join this game. And I went, I told them I wanted to play. They started training me. And later, one of them told me there is a team called Dunk.
Dunk, which stands for Developing Unity, Nurturing Knowledge, was founded in 2010. It's a non-profit organization that aims to empower at-risk children and youth in underserved communities in Ghana through the transformative power of sports with a focus on basketball. Today, Rita's here to join Coach Mo for personal training.
Okay, so Rita, the last time when you were playing the game, I observed you were a bit weak with the left hand. So today we're going to work on the left hand. So I will demonstrate, and then you try to do the same thing. All right? And every time you have the ball, remember, you need to stay low. So if I'm here, I catch the ball, this position all the time, because that's how you play basketball, from low to high. All right? So I have the ball now. First, jab, attack, cross, finish. Yeah? Remember, we're working on the left hand. It's gonna be difficult, but we keep trying. Let's go. Jab, stay low. Good. Go. You can just tell, like, it's somebody who has seen a lot of struggle, so she really is trying to push herself out of that struggle. And you can see the way she talks, the way she plays, the way she socializes.
Life at home hasn't been easy for Rita. Though tonight her mother is visiting for dinner, her family isn't always together. Rita's parents are divorced, leading to financial struggles as they both face uncertainty at work. This situation has placed a heavy burden on Rita, navigating between parents for support.
Yeah, I wasn't actually staying with them though. I was staying with a cousin. But when I came back, I realized they were not together anymore. So I tried my best to bring them together, but it didn't work. If I need something, I go to my mom. If my dad doesn't understand something, I just explain it to my mom. Then my mom comes to explain to my dad. Then he gets it and he's like, oh, okay. Then I get what I'm saying. Then that's it.
With their father struggling to make ends meet and earning less than $100 a month as a carpenter, basic necessities become a luxury. This constant financial strain serves as a driving force for Rita to excel in both her education and basketball career. Rita and her brother do their best in school, despite their difficult financial reality.
There is an instance where I had to go back to school, and then I didn't have a bag. My shoes were sports. These two things. So I had to get a bag and then a shoe. Without that, I can't go to school. So I had to tell my dad, and my dad was like, there's nothing going on. There's no money. And by then, the economy was very hard. So I had to go to my coach, tell them, and they were like, oh, okay, so we can help. To the extent that they had to give me their own bags.
In addition to lending a hand to players like Rita during tough moments, Dunk focuses on merging basketball with education for youth in need. Here, Rita gets extracurricular educational support to keep her on track at school.
So if I want to write, for us as an institution, it's very important that whatever we do on the court, we can also come to the classroom and also exhibit our educational side. I think we want to avoid a situation that we have kids who are good on the basketball court, but then in their classroom they are falling behind. So it's very important that it goes hand in hand.
Libraries in every dunk center make that a reality. Only youth who participate in skills training and educational classes at the library are permitted to take part in basketball practice. This has had a big impact on Rita, not only helping her focus on her schooling, but also helping to lend broader stability.
I'm very happy I have come this far, because without dunk, I don't think I'll be where I am. I'll probably be part of this teenage pregnancy or taking drugs, because it's not been easy.
As important as the education is, a big part of the draw is, of course, the basketball.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome.
Today's the final training session before an upcoming game.
There we go. Ask for the ball. Good job. One. Go, ask for the ball. Nice run, Ella. As you all know, we are playing Dunk Angels in Jamestown tomorrow. Are we ready for that match? Yes. I can hear you. Are we ready?
Yes. Despite facing her own challenges, Rita remains dedicated to supporting other young women. Through regular walks in her neighborhood, she actively engages with the youth, extending a helping hand to those in her community. This also provides Rita with an opportunity to reflect.
There's this case of teenage pregnancy, drug abuse, and others. So with the help of sports, your mind is always like, I have to the basketball court. There's no time for you to be like, I have to go to the the boy who is always calling me and be like, you have to come to my house.
Which means Rita doesn't just spend tons of time playing basketball, she also loves to watch it. She does her best to model her game off of her favorite player, A'ja Wilson from the WNBA's Las Vegas Aces.
She is always at the center or sometimes at the sideline. When she gets the chance to shoot the ball, she shoots it.
Dunk has 3 locations and through further partnerships with schools, works with thousands of young people. Today is a highlight, with Rita's Agege team heading across Accra's coast to Jamestown, where they'll face off against another dunk squad.
Game time on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Rita shows off her skills early on, opening the scoring. In the end, the Agege side came out on top.
I think the score was 9-25. We did our best because whenever we play them, it's quite challenging, but today we won.
Basketball has helped Rita grow and helps her pursue an education and a brighter future. But she realizes how rare that can be in her community.
Sometimes in my spare time, I go to the seaside. You see young boys, young girls, and then with the boys, they go for the fishing. And then when they are back, you see young girls as early as 15 years trying to take the fish and go and sell it in the market. And these people are kind of deprived from education. And I think when education is added to these people, their lives, they'll do better than just fishing. And I think when I get the opportunity to change this, I will really change it. I will.
Thanks to her efforts, Rita looks well on her way to making that difference.
What are sports all about? Winning, fighting, scoring. We say they're about never giving up. Sports Life, every weekend on DW.
The adventure of a lifetime. British-Nigerian influencer Pulumi Nubi made a 10,000-kilometer solo drive from London to Lagos.
I've just loved exploring, immersing myself in culture and documenting it so that other people can be inspired as well.
Follow Pulumi Nubi on this incredible journey across 2 continents.
Euromax. Next on DW. A short reprieve from the fear. These children come from the south of Lebanon. Almost a year ago, they had to flee from fighting along the border with Israel. What's the family's situation now? Is there hope beyond this little project? Global Us. In 45 minutes on DW. The untold story. An eye for detail. A different point of view. Find it here. Reporter, every weekend on DW.
Supermarket Expedition will take a closer look at what goes into food shopping in Germany. Exciting escapes, island hopping in Greece. And tacos the French way. We see how this popular food is made in France. This and more coming up on Euromax. First, thousands of kilometers separate the countries that have shaped her. Content creator Pulumi Nubi set off on a road trip from the UK to Nigeria by herself. But she wasn't really alone. Hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers joined her on her adventure, including us.
A young woman all alone in a small car from London to Lagos. British-Nigerian content creator Pulumi Nubi is braving the road.
My God, this is happening!
Undeterred by the naysayers, Pulumi embarked on her adventure from Europe to West Africa, a journey fraught with dangers, setbacks and disasters. Like a serious car accident. More on that later. But what were her motivations?
I've just loved exploring, immersing myself in culture and documenting it so that other people can be inspired as well. And, you know, over the years, I've racked up the countries. We're at 80 plus countries right now. And I wanted to connect these 2 places I consider home, London and Lagos.
Born in Lagos, Nigeria, Pulumi was 10 when she moved with her family to London, England, where she has lived ever since. On January the 24th, 2024, Pulumi set off from London for her biggest trip yet. First, it's off to Dover and onto the ferry.
Can't help but just tear up because it's just like, wow, I'm actually doing it.
She continues through France and Spain to Gibraltar to catch the next ferry to the African continent, landing in Morocco.
Now I'm on the continent, Lagos. I'm coming for you, come on.
From Morocco through the Atlas Mountains to the Western Sahara, a 3-day crossing. Things were moving quickly, but then it got more difficult. What are the biggest challenges?
But once I started getting to West Africa and the rest, I was like, oh damn, this is hard. Like, you know, from the road to just fatigue because I've just been on the road for too long, and then the borders issue, and then the cars. It was like back to back. But yeah, it's priceless now. I won't put price on it. It's just so much incredible memories.
Pulumi was on the road for 75 days, taking her time to get to know the countries and their people. Since she set off from London to Lagos, she covered more than 10,000 kilometres and passed through a total of 17 countries. But she's not completely alone. Her Instagram followers keep her company. She started with 12,000 and ended up with around 300,000.
I was genuinely just doing this as another road trip, another grand adventure, you know. It was just meant to be a thing that, you know, I love to do. I want to showcase Africa. I want to create some content as a content creator. But I quickly discovered, like, no, this is no normal thing. The people that buy into your story, connecting with you on a very deeper level.
Her success on Instagram can be attributed to her authentic, honest personality. Luxury living, no thanks.
Yeah, this road, though, they say Africa massage. I'm hungry, I need a shower, I'm tired, and everything in between.
Most of the time she slept in her 12-year-old Peugeot, bathed at rest stops, eating in small cafes or while driving. No makeup reality in comfortable clothes. That was very important to her.
I wanted to feel like a traveler going from one place to the next, and what is their lived reality. So I was able to see the border situation like any normal traveler, not a VIP that already had pre-check or whatever, and it was tough.
Facing her fears, overcoming misogyny, handling corruption and bureaucracy at the borders. Bad roads, roaming problems and no internet were also part of her day-to-day. It's a lot of ups and downs, but there are always good moments. She experienced her worst moment on the Ivory Coast. Paloumi crashed into a truck that didn't have warning lights on in the middle of the pitch-black road.
1 minute I was driving, the next minute I wasn't. You know, the airbag was up in my face. I was like, what just happened?
Miraculously, Paloumi was unharmed. Giving up was out of the question. After 10 days at the mechanic, Lumi, as the car had been christened, was back on the road and driving through Ghana, Togo and Benin towards its final destination, Lagos.
We're at the border, guys. I'm gonna scream, I'm gonna scream.
On April the 7th, 2024, Paloumi reached the border of Nigeria and became the first woman of colour to drive from London to Nigeria alone.
Seeing that love just being poured to someone else, like strangers, it was incredible. Like, everybody knew something was happening. Like, the community really came out. As a nation, there was a celebration, which is just, yeah.
The very next day, Paloumi and her parents were welcomed as guests by the governor of Lagos State and were not only reimbursed for all their travel expenses, but also received a new car, an apartment, and were appointed tourism ambassadors for Lagos.
My message is for young people, and women especially, to go after the things that they truly want to do. I hope they see my journey and they are just inspired to go after everything, because I've realized on the other side of fear, on the other side of going after everything that you want, is truly where the magic is.
We can't wait to see how Paloumi's journey continues. Lumi, the car that so bravely persevered until the very end, is in well-deserved retirement on display at a cultural centre in Lagos. And Paloumi already has her eyes peeled for new adventures.
Another adventure awaits us at the German supermarket. Our average German, Michael Müller, embarks on a trip to shop for food. But what surprises await him at the checkout? Our Euromax reporter Claire is about to find out.
Today, Michael is doing his grocery shopping. Like 22% of Germans, Saturday is his preferred shopping day. The highest consumed food products in Germany are milk, butter, cheese, eggs, vegetables, bread and meat. Oh, he's forgotten something. Ha! Better not forget the fund, aka the bottles for recycling. In Germany, there are broadly two types of supermarkets: discounters like Lidl and Aldi, and, well, regular supermarkets. Discounters generally offer a cheaper, more no-frills shopping experience, because after all, who needs fancy labels and displays when you can have bargains? But first stop, the Pfand machine. In Germany, when you buy a plastic bottle, you pay a small deposit on it, and then when you recycle the bottle, you get money back in the form of a voucher. Look, I know we laugh at the Germans sometimes, but this is actually a pretty great system. We already know that Germans love bread, and they have approximately 1 million different types of it. Figuratively, of course. He's gone for the loaf. This is a Brotschneidermaschine, aka a bread cutting machine. A pearl of German engineering, it allows you to get perfectly sliced bread faster than you can say, I can't use a bread knife. Michael selects the thickness of his slices, 10 millimeters. Look at that, majestic. Like 42% of Germans, Michael buys his daily essentials at a discounter. Thrifty. Germans genuinely care about reducing plastic waste, and single-use plastic bags are not only a cardinal sin, but forbidden. So, Michael has brought his own tote bags. 1, 2, 3, 4? After picking up the rest of his essentials, it's time for stop 2 on the supermarket sweep, the regular supermarket. Michael has arrived at Edeka. Regular supermarkets tend to have a larger selection of products, including bigger bio or organic sections, from which 33% of Germans like to buy their fruit and veggies. After the basics, popular everyday purchases are cookies, savoury snacks, chocolate bars, and sweet snacks. And of course, as a German, Michael picks up a beer. Compared with other European countries, in Germany, self-checkout adoption is lagging. Why? 1, Germans pay with cash, and 2, they're protective over their personal data. Like with all things German, when it comes to checkups, there are rules. 1, line up your items logically. Put hard and heavy things at the front so you can pack them first. Maximum efficiency. 2, if someone has one item, let them go before you. 3, if another checkout opens, we're opening cache 3. Abandon all sense of order. It's whoever sees it first. And finally, prepare to be fast. Another successful shop for Michael.
Next, we're off to Greece for some island hopping in the eastern Aegean. We'll discover all that Rhodes, Symi, and Kalymnos have to offer. Charming city tours, stunning beaches, and challenging hikes are just a few things that await us.
I'm kind of obsessed with the Greek islands, so I'm really excited to show you some highlights today, starting here in Rhodes. My favorite place on the island is the Old Town. Ta-da! It's also one of the best preserved medieval cities in Europe.
The fortifications and the Grand Master's Palace were built by the Knights of St. John, or the Knights Hospitaller, in the 14th century. Sokratos is the Old Town's main street, and it can get crowded.
And one of my top tips for any popular tourist destination, like Rhodes, is to get off the busy streets and explore the little side streets. Just make sure you do it quietly because people live here.
Rhodes was under Ottoman rule for around 400 years, and the architecture left from this period gives the Old Town a very special character. The colorful Mosque of Suleiman dates from the 16th century. Rhodes really has it all, from layers of history to incredible beaches.
Beach lovers have lots of choices in Rhodes, especially on the island's east coast. I'm here right now at Sambika Beach.
Greek law requires that every beach must have an area without sunbeds, so you'll always find space if you don't want to rent anything. Next up, the island of Symi.
I'm loving Symi already.
You can get here with a 60 to 90-minute boat ride from Rhodes.
Here we go! We're here in the port town of Yalos, which is famous for these very, very beautiful, colorful neoclassical buildings. These were the result of a wealthy period of shipbuilding and sponge diving.
Symi is small, around 60 square kilometers. To get around, you can take a local bus or rent a car, like I have today. We are crossing the island.
So we made it to the opposite end of the island, to Panormitis Monastery, and really it's very beautiful.
The ornate buildings here now were constructed in the 18th century. Nowadays, it's an important pilgrimage site for Orthodox Christians, right here on this beautiful bay. Most beaches in Symi are only accessible via boat, but not Marathuda Beach. If you love a calm island that's full of beauty, Symi is the place for you.
I hope you got a taste of what this island has to offer, and soon we have our next stop. The island of Kalymnos. This rugged island probably isn't on your radar, but it should be. It's a great place if you enjoy being in nature, and it's one of the world's top climbing destinations.
The island's climbing routes are known for being easily accessible, so we get up close to take a better look.
It's the second most popular climbing destination, rock climbing destination in the world after Yosemite National Park in the United States.
It only became a climbing destination a couple decades ago. One of the main landmarks is the Grande Grotta Cave. I also want to check out the port town of Pothia.
This is the island's main town, and it's also where the ferries arrive.
It's not your typical tourist town. Kalymnos is home to many locals who certainly have stories to tell. And there's one last place I'd like to see today.
Quick stop here in Vathi, this very cute little port town, and these rock formations have caused this area to be referred to as a fjord. It's honestly really stunning. But my favorite view is from up here. That's amazing. And this is where we end our Greek island hopping adventure.
Tacos are typically Mexican, right? Well, in France, French tacos are all the rage. But how do they differ from the Mexican kind? We sink our teeth in to find out.
May we introduce the fast food pride of France, French tacos. Excuse me, that's no taco. This is a taco. Nope, not in France. Here, a taco, or in French, a tacos, is a flour tortilla stuffed with various meats, sauces, and French fries, all put together to make a favorite fast food.
My favorite taco is made up of cordon bleu, nuggets, merguez sausage, and Algerian sauce. You can choose what you want in it, and young people most of all appreciate this freedom. It tastes good, and it's something different. A taco is not a burger.
How did this fairly recent form of junk food come about? And what's behind the hype? Young people are devouring this fast food and giving the U.S. chains a run for their money. The O Tacos franchise was launched in 2015 and already has 70 locations in the greater Paris area alone. It offers French tacos in a range of sizes and variations from €5 upwards. The perfect meal for violating every rule of healthy eating.
We think it's delicious. It might not exactly be healthy, but it's tasty.
But how did it get this odd name, French tacos?
Whenever people came into my diner, I'd explain, these are not Mexican tacos, they're French tacos. They're a little bit French, a little Oriental, but they're French tacos.
And yet, French tacos didn't originate in Paris, but in Lyon. And Nasser Nemili did his bit for them.
I'm Nasser Nemili, and I was one of the first to start making French tacos 20 years ago.
French tacos are thought to have first appeared in the banlieue of Grenoble and Lyon. Here in the Akbar near Lyon, Nasser Nemili perfected his recipe. He's been working together with his wife from the start.
A few people started making the tacos here in more or less the same style. But I tried to do it differently from the others. And all at once, we had success with them.
I got a mini size, and that's enough for me. Did you see how big the mini size is? They also call it a baby taco. The unique selling point of French tacos is the freedom to put together your own creation from a wide range of meats and sauces. I think it's a product that appeals to people of all different ethnicities. The shakshuka is a Tunisian recipe. The cheese is a typical French variety. The French love cheese. There's something for everyone. The falafel is Lebanese. For us, Nasser makes the classic version in a flour tortilla with cheese, chicken, French fries, shakshuka, Algerian sauce, plus a cream cheese sauce. The sweet and spicy Algerian sauce goes into the tortilla first.
I spread the sauce around. That sticks everything together when you close the tortilla. Then comes the shakshuka. It's made of onions, peppers, and garlic, all fried in oil. And then I add tomato paste to all that.
On top of that come 2 slices of cheddar and a sprinkling of grated cheese.
Then I saute the chicken. I season this with curry, turmeric, and a pinch of fennel. I ate this as a boy. I got the recipe from my mother. There you have it. It's still nice and hot. A handful of fries, some like less, some like more. And on top of them comes the homemade cream sauce made of Gruyere cheese. And we fold everything up together.
The average French taco from here weighs about 550 grams.
That's our classic size. To make sure the taco is golden brown, I do the same as with croissant and brush it with an egg mixture. Then I add a little more cheese.
Then the French taco goes into the oven for 2 to 3 minutes. It tastes best when eaten piping hot. But even though Nasser was one of the first, Nasser Nemili is proud of the original and his own unique creation that, so far, nobody has copied. French tacos with feta cheese, honey, and cashews.
And finally, the Italian Mediterranean island of Sardinia is mostly known as a holiday destination, but it's also rich in ancient traditions, like a unique style of singing you won't find anywhere else.
To me, singing is everything. It's been my passion since I was a boy. I feel it in my heart.
This sound may be somewhat unfamiliar. We'll learn more about its origins in a moment.
You feel it here. When everyone's singing in harmony, it moves something here in your gut.
It comes from the remote mountain villages of the Italian island of Sardinia. It's known as the Canto a Tenore and said to date back over 3,000 years. It's part of daily life in many Sardinian towns, like here in Orgosolo. Musicologist Diego Pani, seen on the left, has been studying Sardinian pastoral song for several years. It's now a UNESCO Intangible World Heritage.
Cantautore is a polyphonic singing realized by 4 parts. The peculiar fact of these 4 parts is that the 2 lowest voices are made using overtone singing.
The Zuparamonte group breaks down the song for us into its individual voices. Much of the canto a tenori remains a mystery, but there's no doubt that it originated among the shepherds and herders, the island's traditional occupations. It's passed on by ear, not on paper.
I always worked in the country around cows. The singing reminds me of cows mooing. Calves sound very similar. I try to imitate that. It's the same sound. Yeah, some might say this kind of song was inspired by the sounds of animals, but that really hasn't been proven.
The canto a tenori is sung at certain festivals, on holidays, and occasionally at concerts, but here it's part of daily life. Pubgoers in Sardinian villages often spontaneously break out in song. About 3,500 singers are active in all of Sardinia. Every village has its own style. But what role does the singing play among the Sardinians themselves?
When you get together, have some drinks, and then hear this, it always gets really quiet. Everyone loves it. It's our tradition. We carry the singing in our hearts. It's part of Sardinian identity, an Orgozolo identity. The canto belongs to this region, and we're very proud of it.
The lyrics were written in the Sardinian language by Sardinian poets. They deal with love, friendship, religion, war, and peace. So will the next generation carry on the tradition?
Chiriaco is still young, 20 years old. He was still a child when he came to us and learned to sing. We all learn the tradition this way. You can't learn it at any school.
The exact origins of the canto tenori will always be something of a mystery, but it's an integral part of Sardinian identity that lives on to the present day.
And with that, we wrap up this week's show. Be sure to follow us on social media for more fun stories from the world of culture and lifestyle in Europe. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye and auf Wiedersehen.
A short reprieve from the fear. These children come from the south of Lebanon. Almost a year ago, they had to flee from fighting along the border with Israel. What's the family's situation now? Is there hope beyond this little project? Global Us. In 15 minutes on DW.
Living in a polarized world.
An axis of evil.
The 2003 war against Iraq was based on a lie.
We were told that we needed to bring democracy to Iraq.
The Americans brought us destruction, religious division, hunger, discrimination, and racism.
Us and them. War.
In 60 minutes on DW. Living Planet, DW Podcasts.
How to make greener choices in your everyday lives.
I honestly try to be vegan.
Working 32 hours a week could be better for the environment than 40.
But of course, we shouldn't be naive either.
Living Planet. Just hit subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
I want to have the same freedom in my own country and chant for my own freedom.
Discover stories that could change your life. Just a click away. Find our best documentaries on YouTube. See the world as you've never seen it before.
I'm ready.
Subscribe now to DW Documentary.
SAF is the most important tool that we have.
So SAF can be used across different geographies.
The real challenge with SAF
continues to be an incredibly scarce source.
Wait, what the heck are SAFs? Transforming business delivers answers in a nutshell. Figure out what's the real New Deal and what's just greenwashing. Watch now on YouTube.
This is DW News live from Berlin. Venezuela's opposition leader flees to Spain and vows to fight for democracy in exile. Edmundo Gonzalez is being granted asylum with a warrant out for his arrest at home. Supporters say he left because his life was in danger. Also coming up, Paris bids farewell to the Paralympics. As the Games close, it's hoped the event is changing attitudes toward disability. I'm Ul Alzakar. Welcome to the program. Venezuelan opposition leader Edmundo Gonzalez has vowed to continue his fight for democracy in exile after he fled Venezuela to seek asylum in Spain. Supporters maintain he and not President Nicolas Maduro won the disputed presidential election 6 weeks ago. The opposition says Gonzalez left the country because he feared for his life.
Venezuelan opposition leaders say this is the rightful president of their country. But he's arrived in Spain, where he's been granted political asylum.
My departure from Caracas was marked by episodes of pressure, coercion and threats, suggesting I wouldn't be allowed to leave. I trust that we will soon continue the fight for liberty and the return of democracy in Venezuela.
Edmundo González Urrutia faces arrest back home. After 11 years in power, Nicolas Maduro was declared president again after July's elections, but opposition leaders say the results were rigged.
What happened during today's polling was a violation of the rules. Our struggle continues, and we won't rest until the will of the people of Venezuela is respected.
Opposition supporters have been persecuted for that claim. Since the election, the government has detained thousands of protesters and driven opposition leaders into hiding. That includes Maria Corina Machado, who stepped aside to make way for González after she was banned from running for president. She has since emerged a few times to lead protests against Maduro and to demand a transparent vote count. Machado spoke out about González's departure on X, writing, Gonzalez's life was in danger, and the regime has no scruples or limits in its obsession to silence him and try to bend him. Faced with this brutal reality, it is necessary for our cause to preserve his freedom, his integrity, and his life. But Gonzalez's departure has worried Venezuelans.
I feel hopeless. What little hope we had with him. I'm very distressed, but at the same time, I think he is safe where he is. We need to keep on fighting and have faith.
Machado, however, says Gonzalez will be sworn in exile in January and will fight from abroad, while Machado will remain to lead the cause in Venezuela.
DW's Oscar Schlenker is following the story for us from the Venezuelan capital, Caracas. I asked him what to make of the fact that the Venezuelan government allowed Gonzalez free passage despite an arrest warrant against him.
Well, it definitely puts into question Venezuela's judicial system and the validity of the charges against Edmundo González Urrutia. It also shows how politics dominate every decision made, particularly Maduro's administration, which has the support of all the institutions and the military here in Venezuela. Now, Edmundo González Urrutia stated today after arriving in Spain that trying to leave Venezuela was an ordeal met with coercion, pressures, and threats from the government. We also learned today that González Urrutia had been staying at the Dutch embassy here in Caracas since shortly after the elections about a month ago, until he decided, due to mounting persecution and the arrest warrant, to take Spain's offer of political asylum. So it's not clear what negotiations were made to allow González Urrutia's departure, but Maduro's administration is treating his exile as a political success.
Where does this exile leave the opposition in Venezuela now?
Well, the opposition is firm on their conviction that Edmundo González Urrutia won the elections, and those claims are supported by several factors, starting with the voting machine tallies that were uploaded to the internet. Also, the fact that Maduro's administration has not been able to provide any proof of electoral documents that can be verified to demonstrate his proclaimed victory, adding to statements by key international observers, including the United Nations, that questioned the electoral transparency of these elections. So the opposition will continue to fight for recognition of Edmundo González Urrutia's win. Maria Corina Machado said they will proclaim him president on January 10th, as the law demands, and they still have a strong international support, which could translate into more repression and persecution inside Venezuela as January approaches.
You said there's strong international support, but I wonder, how have Venezuelans reacted to González's departure?
There are fears this new development will divide the opposition. Some people in Venezuela have expressed they feel abandoned and hopeless to change. It's also one of the challenges Maria Corina Machado now faces. With Maduro's strong grasp on power and the support of the military, the only thing holding the opposition together is an almost certain belief they won the elections and international support from democratic countries. However, in the past weeks, we have seen an increase in migrants leaving Venezuela as they see little hope for change and the worsening crisis that is looming.
Thanks very much for your reporting, Oscar. That's DW's Oscar Schlenker in Caracas. Time for a quick look now at some other stories making headlines around the world. North Koreans have marked the 76th anniversary of the state's foundation. Celebrations were held in the center of Pyongyang at Kim Il-sung Square. Russia and China have sent their greetings, both expressing hope for deeper ties with North Korea. At least 48 people have died after a fuel tanker crash caused a massive explosion in Nigeria. A spokesperson from the Emergency Management Agency said all killed had been given a mass burial close to the site of the collision. Around 50 cattle also died in the incident. Pope Francis has met Papua New Guinea youth at a stadium in Port Moresby as part of his Asia-Pacific tour. Earlier, the pontiff visited remote communities in PNG. Francis presented locals with medicine and gifts and met with missionaries. And the Pope is now on his way to East Timor, also known as Timor-Leste. He'll be the first pontiff to visit the overwhelmingly Roman Catholic country since its independence from Indonesia. Despite the festive mood in the capital, Dili, a massive construction project has stirred up controversy. A sprawling new altar built for the Pope has displaced local residents and raises questions about the true cost of this historic visit.
It's a massive structure right on the outskirts of Timor-Leste's capital, Dili. A couple of months before the Pope's arrival, construction began in the tiny island nation on an altar that costs around $1 million. Many locals are angry, particularly those faced with eviction, to make way for the altar, like this family. They have been told to leave and close their shop.
We've been here for so long. Our children were born here. We can't sleep at night because we don't know where we will go. No one can tell me.
With their deeply rooted Catholic faith, the Pope's visit is the highlight of the year for many here. But in a move that could have come straight out of the Bible, locals say the government marked all houses to be demolished with red numbers. Our request for an interview went unanswered.
The government doesn't care where we go. They just want us gone. We're supposed to get money, but it's unclear how much. The order is to pack up and leave. Where we'll live next is our problem.
Work on the altar has almost finished. Some houses have been demolished, but the Barros family has been spared for now. The local church says it's only responsible for the construction, not the evictions.
It was before nothing there, nothing. I mean, it belonged to the government. The government knows how to run the place because it was being occupied by the people. But this is the problem with the government. I think the church has nothing to do with the organization of the government.
Tiny East Timor has a special connection to the church in Rome. Back in October 1989, Pope John Paul II visited East Timor when the country was still under Indonesian occupation. He held Mass at this altar not far away. Afterwards, the assembled crowd protested against the Indonesian occupiers.
At the time, it's almost impossible to have a big gathering like this because people are afraid being arrested by the Indonesian military, because everybody here fights for independence. Even the church, the priests, the nuns, even the young people, everybody fight for the independence, And church had been very helpful.
Last time the papal visit led to change. This time it's leading to evictions. Like many other Catholics here, Candido Barros still wants to welcome the Pope with open arms.
The Paris Paralympic flame has been extinguished at a ceremony in the Stade de France, marking the end of a summer of sport in the French capital. The closing ceremony featured a spectacular light show set to French electronic music, as well as a symbolic handoff from Paris to Los Angeles, which will host the Games in 2028. According to organizers, 2.5 million tickets were sold across 11 days of competition. And Paris has used the Paralympics to make its streets more accessible for people with disabilities, although, as our next report shows, problems do remain.
The Games were a showcase of impressive performances by armless archers, limbless swimmers and football kicking the ball into a goal they were unable to see, against stunning backdrops. And it was a formidable feast for visitors. 2/3 of the French watched at least parts of the Paralympics.
There are so many happy people, volunteers, spectators, people from all sorts of countries.
It was impressive to see people with disabilities overcome them to achieve the extraordinary.
The games were also an occasion for some to put themselves in the shoes of people with disabilities. For example, while playing sitting volleyball.
This makes me realise how difficult this sport is and how much you have to adapt to it.
I love it, and I will try it again when I come back to my home.
Ahead of the Paralympics, the city made changes to help people with disabilities get around and created 17 barrier-free neighbourhoods, like here in northern Paris.
There are knobs on the ground for the visually impaired, and the pedestrian crossing is flat without cobblestones. We've expanded this alley so that there's more space and made the 2 sports facilities here accessible by constructing this lift, which helps people get around the stairs, and by building a wheelchair ramp. By 2026, we'll have invested €125 million in these construction works.
But this sports philosopher says more needs to be done to change the mindset.
People with disabilities are not visible in our society. They don't hold office, you can hardly see them on TV, and only a few of them are in the performing arts. It's impossible for them to project themselves and dream big.
And additional construction works will be necessary. The Paris metro is largely inaccessible for people in wheelchairs. Changing that could cost more than €50 billion and take as long as 20 years.
You're watching DW News. Up next here on the channel, Global Us reports on efforts to recycle an old army base. For more news analysis, take a look at our website, dw.com, or download the DW News app. I'm Ula Osaka, and from me and the team here in Berlin, thanks so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.
Set. And we are watching closely. We are all in to bring you the story behind the news. We're all about
unbiased information
for free minds. So do tune in.
Done.
Get the greenest of all your updates with green innovations, green trends,
the holy grail of electromobility,
and green revolutions.
Global solution to all our climate problems.
Keep up to speed.
If you're curious about climate topics, subscribe to this channel.
We've got new videos every Friday.
Subscribe to Planet A.
Living diversity. Music as a catalyst for much-needed change. Building sustainably. How do you recycle an old military base? And coping with fear. How the war in Gaza is affecting children in Lebanon. The conflict between Israel and the Palestinian Islamist group Hamas, designated a terrorist organisation by several countries, has been raging for almost a year. Southern Lebanon is also affected.
It looks like an ordinary summer's day. A calm Sunday on the Mediterranean. Families and young people are having fun. The atmosphere relaxed and happy. Amal Wazni mixes a vodka pina colada. She runs a beach bar here in Haya, specializing in cocktails and fish dishes. But the apparent peace is deceptive. Not far away, the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah continues to rage. Just 2 days ago, Amal Wazni says she witnessed an Israeli attack. Her car vibrated from the blast. I was in my car and started crying. I mean, who are we and what has happened to us? I wrote to my friends and said, I don't want to die a martyr, nor do I want to go to heaven. Why are they forcing us to go through all this? We don't want to die. We don't want war. As she talks, we hear Israeli fighter jets flying low overhead, and then a loud bang. Regular breaches of the sound barrier are an apparent attempt to wear people down. We're not afraid. Thank God we're tougher than the sound barrier. We drive through southern Lebanon. In a country with 18 different religious groups, the south is the heartland of the Hezbollah militia. Portraits of martyrs and mullahs adorn the streets, but no one I meet here has any desire for war. Instead, there's a shared sense of fear and panic, and impending doom. Once or twice a week, a bus stops in front of several of the schools in Tyre. Around 100,000 people displaced by the war have found refuge here. The children who board the bus had to leave their homes, their friends, their pets. Actor and drama teacher Kasam Istanbuli takes the children to an old theatre that he has renovated. He says the schools where the children have been living for almost a year have become something like a prison. They call us and ask, hey, is there another outing? For them, this is an outing. Time away where they can express themselves, feel free, feel peace, and be away from the war. And theatre is an act of resistance against war, I think. On stage, the children have space. They can shake off everything, be loud, learn to breathe, and to feel their bodies. When Kasam Istanbuli asks what makes them happy, most remain silent. Whenever I hear the attacks, I get scared. I go and hug my dad and we cry. I can't even go to the toilet because I'm so scared. The theatre helps them to process their fears. I want the war to stop and to go home. In our village we used to play outside, but there's nothing here. We played in the garden or on the beach. Next to our house were vineyards and olive groves. Right now, Dareen Fad Al-Isa and her family have to live in an old classroom. 6 people cook, sleep and live here. They're exhausted. The room is unbearably hot. Dareen's mother is desperate to go home, even though Israeli military strikes have devastated land in the border region. This year, all our olives died. We had so many lemon trees, olive trees, sugar apple trees and almond trees. There are few people still living in the villages near the border. The olive groves have now become a backdrop for the conflict. Barely a day goes by without explosions, fire and destruction. And in the midst of it all are members of the Lebanese civil defense, who often become targets themselves. Ali Zafi al-Din has been working for the emergency service for decades. The country's economic crisis means there's a lack of equipment, so he and his son risk their lives every day. Our equipment is inadequate, especially when it comes to helmets. And when we go out, our vehicles often break down in dangerous areas. They're too old. This one is 1999. It should have retired long ago. The suits can barely keep out the hot temperatures, he explains. And they don't have protective masks. Many of their boots have also definitely seen better days. But Ali Safi al-Din's work is sacred to him. On his arm he has a tattoo of his daughter. She was killed during the conflict between Hezbollah and Israel in 2006. At home, his family are fraught with anxiety. They've spent years suffering the aftermath of the 2006 war. Ali Safi al-Din's wife lost the sight in her right eye. She was left deaf in one ear too. They should negotiate. They should do something to end this war. We thought we were done with wars. Honestly, this new war now, we just can't take it anymore. The families say they have just about come to terms with the pain of the last conflict. Now they fear that once again they're losing control over their lives.
If she says, yes, I was raped, don't do that. This playful interaction has a serious intent. How do you react when a person tells you about their traumatic experiences? And how can you help them? This is what these 17 future counselors or psychosocial advisors are learning. They're from the organization Paxion. They themselves have all fled to Switzerland. Most have experience in social or psychological work and now want to help others. I find it really encouraging to think that in future I'll be able to help people who come from my homeland, who speak the same language as me and come from the same culture. Talking to someone who shares your cultural language can be very helpful for asylum seekers suffering mental health problems. The common ground can even do more than a degree in psychology. I'm of absolutely no use. I can't speak their language, I don't know their culture, so I can't fully empathize with their situation and their problems. But for our counselors who share their language and culture, it's not a problem at all. The counselors received 3 months of training. Firstly, we see the 4 basic attitudes that a counselor should have, and then we look at communication techniques. The training aims to ensure the counselors themselves don't suffer re-traumatization and to encourage those they help to be open to receiving support. In our culture, we don't talk much about our feelings. We don't have these communication skills, so I keep asking the trainer for advice. The idea was developed in Afghanistan and has also been established in Germany. Now Paxion is bringing it to Switzerland. Importantly, it's not about replacing psychologists. It's about giving advice and support to people before they become ill or chronically ill, before they become a burden on the healthcare system. The pilot project is funded by regional authorities, the Swiss federal government, and donations. The canton of Aargau is contributing $500,000 Swiss francs and will also fund the counselling sessions. The project will benefit both individual asylum seekers and the region itself. It will provide relief for people in asylum seeker shelters, because it's a far more suitable alternative to repeat appointments with a family doctor, where they have to organize an interpreter. And it's better than going to a psychiatric clinic and then realizing that it's not the right place for them. The trainee counselors are currently on a 9-month internship, offering their services in accommodation centers, like this one in Wildeck in the canton of Aargau. They found it very rewarding so far. In my experience, 1 or 2 sessions are spent crying and grieving, but from the 3rd or 4th session onwards, there is a great sense of relief. This is my dream job. I studied social work in my home country and then worked in it too. I like helping people. And this is about exactly that, helping people, to ensure traumatic experiences don't continue to haunt those who have had to flee their homeland.
I was in the industry for 35 years, and I was always the only person of colour in the orchestras. And I was aware of it, but I never had a space to talk about it.
Another massive problem is at Conservatoire they act like they're trying to get you ready to go into the profession, and a part of that for me was like really speaking about the ways that my hair should look, which I found incredibly inappropriate.
I think that conservatories are also seeing perhaps decades, centuries of missteps, let's call them, and are now trying to correct.
9 years ago, Chichi Nwanuku founded Chinoke, a London-based orchestra for musicians of colour.
This is the 21st century. It should not be a novelty that there's more than one black person on the stage playing Beethoven.
Or the work of a female African-American composer, or Vivaldi.
I realise it was the first time that all of us, all we had to think about was the music. And we all shared this feeling.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.